Okay, it's time for some real talk. Let's take a quick look at how one of the worst humans in America got elected President of the United States. Donald Trump is a symptom of a much larger problem. He isn't the problem itself. Trump is an opportunist. He's not some evil genius that on his own figured out how to win the election and proceeded to institute some of the worst policies in recent US history. Look, don't get me wrong, I blame him for some things, but I put most of the blame on Republicans. I discuss this when I give talks about genocide and atrocities prevention. There will always be crazy and evil people in the world who want to do terrible things. But you can't commit things like genocide or serious abuses of power by yourself. You need a bunch of willing followers and enablers who will help make it happen. They support the evil and crazy, and without them, it'd just be one guy shouting into the void. So why do I blame Republicans? Well, for the last few decades, Republicans have promoted misinformation and attacked education, science, truth, and facts. Republicans never dealt with the deep racism in their party, and often catered to the races, or at least tacitly approved of their beliefs. Republicans promoted racist birtherism to try to discredit the first black president. Republicans enabled and promoted divisive, vitriolic, racist, Islamophobic, misogynist, homophobic propaganda outlets and personalities like Fox News, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, OANN, and more. Republicans fully embraced Christian nationalists and flirted with white supremacists. Republicans paved the road for Trump. He just drove on it. And then after all of the hate, racism, bigotry, and anger that had built up in the Republican Party for years, it finally had an outlet. It had a standard bearer. They had Donald Trump. And propaganda then was spewing straight from the White House. Fake news and alternative facts. We saw QAnon and disgusting baseless conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. And the White House and Republicans in Congress said nothing because they knew it would cost them votes. A recent survey showed that 50% of the Republican Party believes in the QAnon conspiracy theories. The fringe is now the very loud majority. Now, it didn't have to be this way. Remember, many Republicans during the 2016 primary were well aware of who Trump was and how dangerous he could be. Many in Congress spoke out against him and warned voters not to vote for him. But when he won, they quickly became his biggest enablers, cheerleaders, and defenders. Imagine if instead of just rolling over, every Republican in Congress decided to stand firm in their view of Trump. If instead of enabling him, they decided to hold Trump accountable. If they made it clear that a Muslim ban was anti-American. If they stood up against his violations of the Emoluments Clause and the millions of dollars he was making while he was in office. If they spoke out when he attacked the press. If they refused to cooperate with him on building a ridiculous border wall with money appropriated for our military. If they demanded he fully cooperate with the Mueller investigation. If they sounded the alarm when he fired Jim Comey. If they held him accountable when he engaged in disastrous trade wars. If they made it clear that ripping children away from their parents at the border purely for a cruel deterrent was not okay and could be considered a crime against humanity. If they spoke out when he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un and sucked up to Putin. If they pushed back when Trump attacked our allies. If they had impeached him when he attempted to engage in a quid pro quo with Ukraine. If they demanded he actually do something about the COVID-19 pandemic and called him out for setting a bad example by holding super spreader events without masks. If Republicans stood up to Trump, half of the stuff that he's gotten away with would never have happened. But that's just not how it went. Instead, Republicans have been willing participants and enablers. There is one Donald Trump, but there are 198 Republican representatives in the House and 53 Republican senators. And every single day for the last 4 years, they chose to stand with Donald Trump. Even after they got it so wrong for so long, they still had an opportunity to reject Trump this election, and they refused. They could have decided that after these last 4 years of horrible leadership and scandals, after more than 220,000 Americans had lost their lives, millions lost their jobs, our leadership on the world stage had all but vanished, and the national debt drastically increased, Republicans could have decided enough was enough. But they didn't. They rolled over once again. Now, there have been a few Republicans that have remained steadfast in their opposition to Trump. Some even left the administration to criticize him. But it's clear that they are the minority, and the Republican Party is now the party of Trump. So, like I said, Republicans are to blame for where this country is now. They are responsible for all the bad that Donald Trump did these last 4 years, for the hate, division, and violence that we see today. Remember that when you vote. Remember that the next election in 2 years. Remember that every single time you go to the ballot box. Every one of Trump's enablers must be voted out. Trump is a symptom of a much larger problem, and it's clear that that problem is the Republican Party.